I look
Yeah,
forward to this. Oh,
me too.
are we live? I think we're live. Are we live? Everybody let us know if you can hear and see us. Welcome. Oh, I see comments coming in. I just need to see it on my computer because that lags a little bit. There, are we on there?
We are.
There we are. Okay.
Hello,
Hello.
everybody.
Hello,
Thank
Erin.
you for
How are
joining.
you?
Jennifer, great to see you. It's been too long.
I know. I was hoping I would see you last week at Simon Says Stamp Create, but you couldn't do it.
I'm so sad to miss what a epic event. That event
Yeah.
looked just spectacular. Simon Says Stamps does such a wonderful job putting that on. So much work that goes into
Yeah.
making that happen. Yeah,
Yep.
it's my loss not being there.
Next year. Next year, right?
Yes, for sure.
And tonight, tell everybody about tonight.
Well, welcome everybody to the second episode, really the third, but we're calling it the second because the first one that Jennifer and I did was just an intro. This is the second Hanging with Hero. I'm honored to have Jennifer co-hosting this with me. This is an opportunity for us to really talk about the industry, not just do the creative side, which is such a wonderful part of card making and crafting every day, really. You can go around and get inspired by so many. And this is an opportunity to really talk about how this industry came to be. 50 years that Hero Arts has been here this year. It's our anniversary. And in so many ways, it's 50 years of stamping and card making. And so really excited to share the stories with you, Jennifer. And, you know, we have crafty friends that we love
Yes,
inviting. Last week, we had
for
Tim Holtz,
sure.
which was a lot of fun. He didn't have much to say. It was wonderful to hear him and have him join. When I told him about this event, he said, Aaron, I'm in. Tell me when I can be there. So it's wonderful to have Tim Holtz. And we've got a lot of great guests coming in the future as well, because we're planning on doing 8 to 10 of these about every other Wednesday over the next few months. And tonight, I'm very excited. I'm very excited to say that this is a person that I've known for many years, that I've admired. This is one of the original YouTube influencers from back in the day, someone who can help us remember the industry before it was what it is and what we know of in terms of technology, in terms of product, in terms of color, in terms of techniques. This person has been doing it for decades and really is, you know, a creative force in the industry today, and started back in the 90s in stamping. And of course, the person we're talking about is Gina K. Join us.
Yay!
Hey guys, I'm so excited to be here.
We
Thank you
are
for such a
so
nice
glad to have
introduction.
you.
Oh, I think Jennifer and I are still recovering from Create, and what a nice way to wind down. Hanging
Yeah.
with
Yes.
Hero. I love that.
Yes, and really in so many ways, it's hanging with all the wonderful people who are joining us now. Thank you, everyone. It's great to see friends uh, in the comments. It's great to see first come new people. I haven't seen some of you before, and welcome. So happy to have you. Celebrate the community with us and join us, and let's hear your voice too. Gina, man, so it's been years since we've known each other, and you know, I don't think that I know your story that well. Like, how did you, I mean, start us off with your background. How did you first come to really have a passion for stamping, card making, and creativity? Because I know you were creative before this, but how did you kind of come to be in this industry as we know it?
Well, I'll tell you, my history, maybe we should talk a little bit about my history. And I hope I
Sounds
don't
good.
get too many unsubscribers from some of the pictures I'm going to show you tonight. But my history has always been creative. I started back in high school. And when I was 15 years old, I joined a band. And I played music. Music was my passion. My parents were entertainers. So my mom was a big band singer. She sang with Glenn Miller's band right after Glenn Miller passed away and Tex Beneke took it over. So she sang with that band. And my dad was a stand up comedian. So they worked many of the same places over the years, and they met at a show one night, and it was kismet. 3 months later, they were married, and they had me. So it was a no-brainer that they needed somebody to play piano for their show, so they put me right into piano lessons as soon as I was old enough to be able to do that. And I started playing piano. I played piano for 10 years, and then I had an opportunity to join a band, and I was 15, and the band's name was Magic, and that's where I met Tom. So
Mm.
Tom and I, he was 15 also, and we played in our very first band together. We played weddings. We did the wedding scene, and it was so much fun. We would go out every weekend. We were in high school, but we would go out on the weekend, and we'd play a Friday night prom, and then we'd play, 2 Saturday weddings. And it was kind of fun too for kids. We were putting like $30 a weekend in our pockets. So we were the kids that had money to spend back then. And that was way back in the 80s, with the big hair and the whole thing. And so Tom and I, we continued to do that for the next, I don't know, Tom, what it was probably like for the next 14 years. We just
Mm.
continued to do that. And I think I think Mike has a picture of us from our band days if he wants to share that. Now
This is
everybody
the
just
greatest thing ever.
show a little grace here because
Woo! Look at
yes.
that.
So that middle picture is actually Tom and I when we would play more formal events, like we would play the casinos in Las Vegas and in Atlantic City. We played Bally's and we played the Sands. And then the
Mm.
picture there on the right where we're both wearing white, that was more of nightclubs and things like that where people would come in, hotel lounges, and it was just he and I as a duo. And that picture on the left was when we had our full-blown band, and we would go and play these bigger venues with 600 to 1,000 people, and it was really fun. We had a lot of fun doing that. So that is there's a lot of hair in some of those pictures. A
No
lot of hair,
doubt.
a lot of Aquanet. Please tell me you guys remember Aquanet. There was a lot of Aquanet in those pictures. So that's how Tom and I met. And so let's see. My next creative journey was doing nails. I love doing nails, and I had gone to
Mm.
beauty school while I was just out of high school. I'd gone to beauty school. And I opened 5 nail salons in the Madison, Wisconsin area. And that was the salon named Nail Spa Plus. And there's me being Mrs. Business there, boss mama. My nail station, and that was in the very early 90s. Tom and I came off the road from playing music. He went back to school and got a law degree, and I opened a chain of nail salons. So I had 5 nail salons going, and that was pretty fun. I loved nails because it was another very creative outlet for me.
Mm-hmm.
But it reached a point where I had 2 babies. So my kids were still babies. So this was in the early 90s. And I had gone to a Stampin' Up! Party for a neighbor. And I thought, we all get invited to these home parties and we want to support our friends. So I go to this party and I'm thinking, I don't even know what to buy here. Everybody got a catalog, and I was looking through the catalog and I thought, I don't know. So I bought this big set of grapes, this stamp set that was grapes. And I thought, I bought paint too. Stampin' Up! Sold paint back then. And I thought someday I'm going to use that and I'm going to paint a border around my kitchen. So I'm talking about a long time ago. And finally that product came and I stuck it in a drawer and I never looked at it again. And then about 6 months later, my times may not all be accurate, but about 6 months later, I got invited to another Stampin' Up! Party, and I went, oh no, what am I going to buy this time? I mean, I could buy a basket because I could find things to put in a basket, or I could buy Pampered Chef stuff. But what am I going to buy at the stamping party? But that demonstrator was smart because she did it like a workshop, and I got to actually make my first card. That's all
Nice.
it took. I made my first
Game
card.
over.
I was hooked. And I told her that I didn't know what to buy in the catalog. I wanted everything in the catalog. And she said, well, there's a great way to get everything in the catalog, and that's to sign up to be a demonstrator. So right out of the gate, I went to my first party where I made my first card, and I signed up to be a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator.
Wow, you just knew.
I
You just
knew.
knew. You
I
knew.
knew. Yeah.
That's amazing. What was her
And
name? I wonder if she like realizes what your career turned into.
I'm
Do
trying
you
to think of
know?
her name. I don't remember her name off the top of, but I know her upline's name was Judy Lore, because Judy and I became very good friends, and we
Okay.
went to all of the, the big events that Stampin' Up! Through. Stampin' Up! Is
Okay.
truly, I think, one of the gateway drugs to this
Mhm.
industry. It gets so many people interested in crafting who never tried it before, because
Yep.
they're just there to support a friend, and before you know it, they have a whole stamping circle.
You know what's
Yep.
so interesting about that, Gina, is Tim, in the last discussion we had, the last Hanging with Heroes, said the same thing, that he didn't really want to do stuff. He wasn't really sure if he wanted to even stamp or even be at that event. It sounded like you at least were very crafty and artsy and knew there might be something for you. But nonetheless, the teacher really hooked him just like you. So if you can get a
Yeah.
good teacher, you can really kind of find. So yeah, Stampin' Up! Is definitely an incredible organization and definitely a gateway drug for so many people in this industry. Wonderful set of
Yeah.
products, but teacher is what hooked you.
The
And I mean,
teacher
that's
is,
what you're so well known for. So you
well,
have kind of carried that on.
when I owned my nail salons, I also owned a nail school. So I
Okay.
had people that came to school, and I taught them to do nails to get licensed. And so teaching has always been
Nice.
a bit of a passion for me. And when I
Great.
went to that demonstration and I saw her doing the teaching, I thought, ooh, I might be able to, if I can learn how to make a card, I might be able to learn how to teach and do demonstrations for, in my house or in other people's homes.
Makes
So I
sense.
was I was
Yeah.
pretty impressed with that. It was fun. Yeah, definitely. I agree with Tim. The teacher makes the difference. Yeah.
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 Well, sounds like for you, I mean, that was really a hook.
Yeah.
So keep going with this timeline. So are you
Well,
like
so
in
I
1994,
I,
95?
I was probably in about 1994, 95, and I was a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator. And
Okay.
it was probably 97, because I just had Rena. So it was 1997, and I had these two babies, and I was, working all day in the salon, and then coming home. And, well, I didn't work all day. I worked a few days a week, but I would come home, and Tom would get home at night, and he would watch the kids, and I would go out and do Stampin' Up! Demonstrations. And I
Nice.
really fell in love with the whole idea of teaching and being around people and sharing this love of crafting. And about 10 years into my nail salon business, well, maybe it was a little less than that, but I had taken on partners. So there was another lady and her husband that bought into our business, and they were very hands on, which allowed me to be more of a stay at home mom and just come in a couple days a week to work. So um, I was gung ho Stampin' Up! And Stampin' Up! At the time, they were really focused on recruiting, getting more people in your downline, and they kind of looked at that as a retirement plan. The more people you had in your downline, the more you could retire on that, which was really great. But I guess at some point they decided that that wasn't the optimal plan, and they wanted people to really sell again. Well, my problem was I did exactly what the demonstrator did to me. I recruited all of my customers away. So all of my customers were now demonstrators, and I really didn't have very many people to sell to anymore. So when Stampin' Up! Changed their career plan, that's when I changed my career plan. And
Mm,
I thought, well, I have this salon, but I still want to do something artistic. So maybe on the side, maybe I could draw stamps. Maybe I could start a little stamp company and go to
sure.
shows and something like that.
Mm,
So I actually was digging through some boxes when you guys asked me to do the show, and I found a couple things, and I think people will kind of be interested in seeing these. I want to show you guys my very first stamps that I created. This was part of my very first collection. So let me show you these. I'll zoom in just a little bit here. These are all hand drawn by Gina K.
so
Look at
fun.
And
that.
This is a little cow, right? A little
That is
copyright on
awesome.
there. This is a little cow, and this is a little greeting that went with it. Now, these probably are very similar to your stamps when you first started, Aaron, right? The wood block, the
Yeah.
hand cut rubber with the cushion. We did all of that in our kitchen on the counter. We vulcanized the rubber in our basement.
Mm, yeah.
Wow.
Oh, and I do have a vulcanizer story for you, and I think everybody will enjoy it too. But this was the first collection, and
Mm,
so I went to my first show and I brought 30 designs, three of each. That's what I thought I would sell. Three. I thought I would sell 90 stamps at a show. So in the first couple of hours, they were all gone. And I
mm.
thought, oh, wow, this could really be a thing. So we went home that night and we stayed up all night vulcanizing rubber and cutting it and, indexing the blocks. And then we had the next day of the show and we sold out again. So it,
Nice.
it really took off. And I thought, maybe this is a thing that I could do. Maybe this is a
Mm,
thing that I could make a career out of. And so that was the birth of Gina K Designs. It was way back in 2006.
mm.
I think
Wow.
we produced our very first stamps. What did
That,
Hero
that,
Arts look like in 2006?
yeah, that's really exciting. I mean, that story, it's so reminiscent of my mother too, because she vulcanized in our bathroom because of
Yes.
power
Yep.
constraints in any other plug or any other outlet. And red rubber, of course, just like for you, was really her passion. And
Hmm.
given the 70s, it wasn't something that was available. There was no other format, cling or wood. But by 2006, the Hero Arts was pretty
Oh, look
significant
at that.
catalog, right? This is actually an award-winning catalog. We
Oh
went up
yeah.
against BMW and Mercedes, obviously
Wow.
much bigger companies, and we ended up taking the catalog award in 2006. So Hero Arts was well established, and that was an exciting year for us too. I have to say that this is something I want to ask you, Jennifer, because this is really starting about 2000, probably much earlier, but really the growth in 2000 was scrapbooking,
Yep.
not stamping and card making, not red
Yep.
rubber. In fact, red rubber, as we discussed in our first episode, was shunned. Right, it
Yeah.
was thought to bleed through scrapbook pages and smear, and a lot of people were told not to use woodblock stamps in their scrapbook page, which is of course not true. You didn't have to bleed or go through, but so really that was the time that you and I first met in those
Yep.
early years, right around that time that Gina K
Yep.
started her
Yeah.
business.
Well, and I remember, I think Stampin' Up, just like Jennifer, Stampin' Up they were almost like two separate industries. Stampin'
Mm,
Up was its
Mm-hmm.
own animal, and then everybody else was a different animal.
Yep.
When I kind of stepped outside of the Stampin' Up world and went to my first stamp store, I was still a Stampin' Up demonstrator, but I was just amazed that there were all these other companies out there doing this that I didn't know about.
Yeah.
And I bought stamps and I bought Hero Art stamps. I remember my first Hero Art set. I don't know the name of it, but it was four skinny, long
Uh-huh.
stamps in a box, and it was like a lily or a daylily.
yeah,
They
Yep.
were beautiful, and I love them. And I probably still have them somewhere in my craft room with my box of wood mounted stamps. But I remember PSX and Hero Arts and going into Joann's and seeing all of that. And there were
Yep.
so many brick and mortar stores in our area that I would go into and see your stamps. But
yeah,
Stampin' Up also, and they were probably a little shunned maybe from the scrapbooking world because they also did a lot of scrapbooking and card making in the
Yep.
catalog. Every single page of the Stampin' Up catalog had a scrapbook page and a card using the same stamps.
Mm.
They had all the alphabet stamps and they had all the number stamps. And I remember asking people when I would go to their house, would you like to learn scrapbooking or would you like to learn card making?
Ah.
Because we can do both. We can make a little 6 by 6 page, just have everybody bring a photo, or we can make a card. Now, most people wanted to make cards. And I think it's because they were newer. We were bringing in people that had never done this before, and they were probably thinking, well, scrapbooking would take a long time. I could make a quick card, and I have a birthday coming up, so that worked out. But I remember I did a lot of scrapbooking back then with my stamps. And when I heard you guys talking about it, I was like shocked that people would think that you couldn't stamp in a scrapbook. That's terrible.
Yeah.
Of course you can.
Yeah. You know, all the CKs, right?
Yeah.
Back in the days, we wouldn't, they would say, nobody likes stamping. You guys probably don't want to come. I remember
Yeah, I
that.
think-
And it was a tough period.
I think those who came from the Stampin' Up side weren't afraid of any of it. Like, they would make cards, they'd make scrapbook pages, they'd stamp a border in their kitchen, they would do all types of crafts. They were very focused on that. Then I feel like those who started in the scrapbooking world, like, pattern paper and pattern papers and embellishments, they were a little more hesitant to come in, to involve some stamping. Now, some weren't, but there were quite a few who were, and it was kind of hard to get into magazines and such using a lot of stamping because not as many people were doing it. So I think it depends on which side, like where you came from. I didn't come from a Stampin' Up background. Like, I had been to a few parties, but it was after I was crafty. So I think it just depends on your upbringing in the stamping world.
I think you're right. And I can't tell you how many people, even to this day, will come into our Facebook group and say, I was a Stampin' Up demonstrator and I just recently retired from that. And I can't believe there's this whole other world outside of the home party world. It really is a different, totally different world. It really is.
It is.
Yeah. And close to my heart,
Yes.
Stampin' Up, right? Both of those were so strong back in that era. It was really a wonderful time to be crafting, either scrapbooking, card making, even if there was a small division. I think it was a great time. I just wanted to see if I can do this. I don't have a great overhead camera.
Yes.
But that is,
Yes.
the set is called a limited edition. And I think that was new in 1994. I just grabbed the catalog while we were looking, and that's a big set.
Yeah.
Wow.
Was that the one?
That's the one. That's the one. And I loved it, and I made a million cards with it, and just absolutely loved it. And it's interesting because when I first started, I liked making cards, but I also liked making more 3D things. And I'll tell you how I brought scrapbooking to my Stampin' Up customers, and then I brought it over onto my YouTube channel when I started making YouTube. I'll show you a little something that I had made. I have one of these very, very old things that I made with pattern paper, because Jennifer, you're just saying about pattern paper, and it's so true. So a lot of people that would come to my card making demonstrations and were really getting hooked on card making had been scrapbookers, but we were converting them over to card making, and they were liking the quickness of making a card. You could make a card and feel accomplished right away, but they kind of were getting nervous because their pictures were piling up. So I said to them, instead of worrying so much about big scrapbook pages, what if you made something like this? So let's take a look at this. So this is really, really big. So this was one of my very first videos too on my YouTube channel. I designed a stamp set that had all these different little things like baby and high school and cheerleading, all that. And what we did was we made these little boxes out of a piece of cardstock, and then we put photos in there of
So cute.
the babies. Yeah. So
Look at that.
This way we could put a little index card in there, and we could write everything that this little pack of pictures was about. This was Alicia when she was 3 months old. These are all pictures of Alicia. So I could put a little card in there. I could stick them all in my little box here. And then I could make a whole bunch of these. And I could do, Christmas. And I could do,
So smart.
a different baby one. And I could do our vacation. And so then you could put these on your shelf like books and put a little label on them. And instead of making a full scrapbook, we were making these little things that you could assemble in about 10 minutes at a party. And then people were feeling like, in a way, they weren't giving up on their pictures and their memory keeping, but it was something quick and easy that was similar to a card. So that was kind of
That's
fun.
smart. That's very
That is
smart.
so great.
Yes, I agree.
I wish I had those on my shelf of all the memories
Wouldn't
I
that-
have. Great.
Yeah,
Yes.
right?
I needed you
Instead
as a
of-
teacher, Gina.
Yeah, well, it was fun, you know, it was super fun. And so then, you know, we got into more 3D stuff, and I started doing things like this on my channel. This is a little seed box that I made. And I thought this would be a fun little May Day gift or Mother's Day gift where you can just, you know, give somebody a bunch of seed packets so that they could do seed planting. And so, you know, I did a lot more when I first started than just card making. I really enjoyed that 3D thing. That was just kind of one of my things. So
I'm seeing in the
That's
comments
awesome.
that people want you to bring back that class or that,
Okay,
that
sure.
technique.
Yeah,
I would
for
love
sure.
to do that. Yeah, I would love to do that. That might be a good in the vault thing to bring back, right? We do that once in a while, right, Aaron? Bring something
Yes.
back from the vault.
We have
That's
50
a great
years.
idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll bring back the first set that you bought, Gina.
Oh man, that's a good set, Aaron. I'd buy it again just to have it again.
I didn't have that one, so you do need to bring it back so I can get it. I've
Send
never
it to
had that one.
Jennifer. She'll
Yes.
knock it out of the park.
Yes.
I'd-
The funny thing is that had a color label on it, which, you know, the last episode, Tim mentioned that Hero Arts Stamps on the Shelf, where he first started at Richards, they were the bane of his existence because people would come back and say, this stamp isn't working. And he'd be like, well, what do you mean?
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
like, it doesn't stamp with these colors. And he'd be like, what stamp pad are you using? It'd be like black. It's like, okay. And he realized, oh no, this isn't the bane of my existence. This is a beautiful opportunity to
Yep.
upsell them and show them how to stamp.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it worked against us and worked for us. But just to take a quick pause on your story, Gina. Wow, 1,630 people. This is
Woohoo!
wonderful. Thank you for all joining us today. But it's really the joy of this industry and why Hanging with Hero was started.
Yep.
I mean, why Jennifer and I talked about doing this is really celebrating all of you who come and share your comments and share your ideas, not just on the creative side, but also kind of a passion for your industry, for our industry. Celebrating 50 years at Hero Arts, celebrating, you know, Jennifer and I's friendship, which is 20 years and counting strong. Having crafty friends like you, Gina, coming and joining and sharing wonderful stories. The rock band, man, that's fun. I knew we were going to talk about scrapbooking, card making, and paper crafting, but I did not know we were going to talk about, you know, rock history,
Yep.
which you definitely provided us. And my team's telling me I forgot to mention that we have giveaways.
Yes,
we do have giveaways that are coming up. So thank you all for joining. We will be picking names from all the comments of the people. You don't even have to be here. But anybody who's commented, we will track you down. And there's 5 different gifts. Scrapbook.com, Ranger, Gina K has given a gift certificate, and 2 from Hero Arts. And so we will pick those names at about 5 o'clock, 4:45, which is Pacific time. And then I've got a big announcement of a special sale just for all of you, which we will also say at that time. Okay. With that pause, exciting, Gina. Your history is something that is really inspiring. I love hearing about your days of Stampin' Up, days of teaching, obviously earlier, the days in leather. I didn't know that. And so,
Well,
and you and Tom and your 2 kids. So how did you manage that? I mean,
Well, it was
I asked that same
tricky.
question to Jennifer. Yeah. How
It
did you
was
manage with
tricky.
young kids?
It was hard. It was hard to run a business my nail salons and
Yeah.
do this other stuff at night, and then, have these two growing children that needed my attention. I decided at some point, Gina K Designs was starting to become a full-time business. I would get home at night and I'd put my kids to bed and I would work 6 or 7 hours at night going online, doing back then social media was Split Coast Stampers. That was the big place where people went and networked. And so I would go on there a little bit and pack orders and make stamps. We were making stamps in our basement. I do want to tell a little story, and then I'll get back to this because I have to tell my vulcanizer story.
Oh yeah.
I learned how rubber was made because I found a lady right in my neighborhood who made rubber stamps in her basement. And weirdest thing, I contacted her and I said, "Can you make rubber stamps for me?" And she said, "Sure." So she was making my 30 stamps for my show initially. She made a few sheets of them. And I thought, gosh, this is going to be tough for her. She's a one-woman show and she's got her own stuff that she does. And if my business starts to grow, maybe I should get a vulcanizer. So I said to her, if you ever have a connection to getting me a vulcanizer, she said, "You know what? I have one down in my basement and it's old, but these things don't die. I mean, they haven't been manufactured in years. The same vulcanizers will be here long after we're all gone, and they'll still be working because it was just two steel platens that came together and heated up the rubber, and you could always just figure it out." So I said, "Okay, well, you have this one in the basement?" And she said, "Yeah, and if you want it, just come and get it." Well, I didn't realize it was 10,000 pounds. So
Yep.
I went over to her house and she lived in an old schoolhouse. It was like 150-year-old schoolhouse. And I walked into her front door and right off the front door was her kitchen. And I said, "This is like the coolest house." And I looked over and all her kitchen cabinets were open.
Hmm.
And I said to her, "Your kitchen cabinets are all open." And she goes, "That's my ghost." I said, "Your ghost?" She said, "Yeah, we have a ghost here in our house."
Wow.
And I said, "Oh." And she goes, "If you don't believe me, go ahead and close them all." So I went and I closed them all and they clicked. It was the kind where like they had a magnet. So because they kept opening and they thought that was the problem. So I went through and I closed all of the cabinets and she said, "All right, come on downstairs and I'll show you the vulcanizer." So we went downstairs into her basement and there was this vulcanizer just sitting there looking at me. And I looked at it and I went, "I'm never going to be able to bring that up the steps. I'm going to have to send my husband back."
Yeah.
And she said, "Well, if you want it, it's yours." And I said, "Okay, sounds good." And I wrote her a check for it. And I told her my husband would come back later and get it. We went back upstairs. All the kitchen cabinets were opened again. She said, "This was a schoolhouse. And I believe these ghosts are like children. They're just like, maybe this was a place that these spirits really connected with." And I was like, "All right, well, I'll see you later." So I got home and I said, "Tom, you and my brother-in-law, Tim, have to go and get this vulcanizer for me that I just bought." So they went over to the house. Cabinets were all open again. They went downstairs. They hauled this 10,000-pound vulcanizer up, stuck it in the back of the car, brought it home, and put it in our basement. Now, I had been going down into the basement and working on orders every night for months. It was my place. It was my little workplace. So after the vulcanizer got there, I think the next night I went downstairs and I was sitting at my desk and I hear a voice right in my ear and it says, "Mommy." And I turned because I thought it was Rena. I turned and there was nobody there.
Huh.
And now Rena was itty bitty, tiny little. She would enter. I always said she floated into a room because I'd never hear her and she'd startle me. I'd turn around and she was just standing there. And I was like, "Rena!" And I screamed up the steps. I'm like, "Stop scaring me. Make a little noise when you come down." I didn't hear anything. So I go walking up the steps and Tom was in the living room sitting on the couch. And I said, "Was Rena just here?" And he said, "No, they've been in bed for like 2 hours." So I went upstairs and I thought, okay, they're playing a joke on Mommy, right? I went in and I looked in on each of them sound asleep.
Ooh.
So every time I went down in that basement, it felt creepy. And I would hear that little voice that would say, Mommy. It would just call Mommy all the time. So finally I said, Tom,
Whew.
I think we brought a ghost home in that vulcanizer. We must have brought a ghost home. So Tom went to our church and he talked to our pastor and he gave him a special prayer to say to move it to the light. And I didn't know he did that. And one night I went down for work and I came up and I said, it feels totally different down there. And he said, does it? And I said, yeah. And he said, well, that's because I went to Pastor John and he gave me a prayer and I think we moved the ghost onto the light. But I'll tell you, that was the creepiest thing. I was fine. I was working in my basement for months and all of a sudden I was scared to go down there because there was this
Wow.
little ghost calling me Mommy.
She just wanted to stamp. She's
I
a
know.
stamper.
I know.
She's a stamper. So
But I
how
thought
long
it
did you use that?
I used it for, oh gosh, for several years. And then we moved into our first location, which was a tiny little, maybe 600 square foot brick and mortar store that had an office in the back. And we put the vulcanizer in the back and we made stamps in the back and the whole place smelled like rubber. Just like Erin, I was listening to your story, how your whole apartment smelled like rubber and at some point you had to move on. Well, we had the
Yeah.
whole store smelling like rubber. And then we moved from that location to a small manufacturing place and we had 3 vulcanizers. And then ultimately we ended up with, I think, 7 vulcanizers. And we
Wow.
moved to, we kept moving. We're on our 7th or 8th move. This is the final one. But yeah, so we did have another brick and mortar store in a town called Greendale, Wisconsin, and that was super fun. We opened that because we couldn't find a manufacturing place, and this place had 2 levels. But in order to rent it, they said you have to open a brick and mortar store upstairs. And I thought, all right, well, it was 15,000 square feet. Upstairs, we had 5,000 square feet. We opened a nice size store and we did the whole basement downstairs for packing orders and all of that. And I think I gave Mike a picture of that too. So this, for those of you who were out there and came to visit us in Milwaukee, this was our little brick and mortar store called Village Paper and Ink. And
Nice.
there I am at the cash register being Mrs. Business again. And so it was super fun. It was in a beautiful town called Greendale, beautiful little shops and restaurants. And you can see part of our color collection there and some of the different lines. We carried Tim's line and we carried some Hero Arts. We carried a whole bunch of different lines in that store along with the Gina K line, which was
Wow.
really fun to be able to do that. But then COVID shut us down and, COVID changed everything, right?
Yes, so true.
That store was amazing. It was
Yes, Jennifer was
huge.
there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was wonderful.
Yeah. Yeah, Jennifer was there. We did a class with Kathy Rakusin and Christina Werner and Heidi Crowell. They were all there, and we had a coloring challenge class there, just like they did out at Hero Arts, and it was so much fun. I
Looks like
loved
a big
that.
space.
It
It's
was
a
a
really
big
big space.
space. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was a big space.
Yeah.
Very fun. Very fun. And it was fun when I got down to Milwaukee. I had kind of expanded what I was doing because I was already on YouTube and I could backtrack and talk about my first YouTube videos, but I was already on YouTube at that time. And I was really fortunate because the local news wanted to do a program with me. So once a month in Madison, I would go on and I would do something called the Crafty Corner. And I would do 3D items like it was time for Thanksgiving. So let's decorate your table with paper crafting. And I would show how to make napkin rings and how to stamp on candles and all of those things. And that was super fun. And I think I did give Mike a picture of me being on the TMJ4 morning blend show in Milwaukee. I was there
wow.
doing my fuse. It wasn't the fuse at the time. It was the mink, the Heidi Swap mink. And we were doing foiling on the show. And yeah, it was fun. Those were good, fun times for me. I really enjoyed doing the television stuff and doing the brick and mortar stuff. And
Wow.
yeah, and COVID kind of
That's
changed
amazing.
everything.
Yeah,
But
it sure did.
yeah.
So
Absolutely.
when did you start doing videos?
Well, I started doing videos before YouTube. So I was still a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, and I would record little videos. I had a digital camera that had a video function on it, and I would record things like Gamsol coloring and stuff, and then I would upload it onto something called Google Video. It was right when Google started, and YouTube hadn't started yet, because YouTube started in 2004. So this was still like the late 90s, early 2000s, and I was making videos and putting them up on Google Video. And Google Video ultimately became YouTube.
Yeah.
So it's all the same product. But I really didn't know much about YouTube because I found Vimeo. And I had a channel on Vimeo for a couple of years, and that's where I started. And I want to tell you guys, it's really funny because I meet so many great content creators now, and we talk about equipment all the time. Jennifer, people are always saying to you, what do you use? What kind of camera and stuff like that? There are people that are making unbelievable content now with iPhones. Just beautiful videos, right?
Totally.
Reels. You can make reels, you can make TikToks, you can make all kinds of things with an iPhone and get absolute pristine quality video. But I want to show you back in the day when I started making videos, I want to show you the first camera that we used. So Tom and I, we didn't know what to do. There was only high 8 camcorders. So you really, it was a tape. And you couldn't really convert it digitally unless you found some place that converted your old memories onto there really wasn't even CDs back then. Everything was floppy drives, and there was digital tapes. What were they called? They were like DATs, I think. And DATs were from
That's audio.
Yeah, well, DV. They were DVs, right? DVs. So, we had to buy a camera that was going to enable us to get the video off of the camera and get it onto a computer so we could edit it.
Right.
There weren't camcorders with cards or anything like that back then. And I want to show you our first camera. We went to this place in Madison called Full Compass Systems, and I thought we were crazy. We spent like $11,000 on each camera. That's how much it costs to have a digital camera.
Wow.
Now you can go out and buy a little digital camera for $100, right?
Right.
But let me show you what they were. This was the camera.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Look at that.
Mike, can
still
you
have
put
it.
me on full screen?
He's gonna try. I gotta say, you could probably get your $11,000 back selling that these days. That's like
It's true.
Probably, yeah. And we used to go and we used to do Creativation. And Tom would come in with the camera on his shoulder, and we would go and we would interview everybody at Creativation. And then I would make a YouTube video about everybody's new product and everything that was coming out.
I remember that.
And we
Yeah.
had
There you
2
go.
of these. Look at the size of this thing. We had 2 of these. Aren't they
That's a
insane?
workout. That's a
is.
workout.
And I remember when I went to the television station for my first spot, they had these cameras that they took on the go. These were their field cameras, and it was the same camera. But that's what we had to buy back in the early 2000s to make videos. We couldn't use an iPhone back then.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That is crazy.
Yeah.
And Gina, you
goodness.
really are, in so many ways. I mean, Stamp TV. You were one of the original, really one of the original. People use the word influencer because YouTube is such an important part of today's craft scene. But back then, we have to remember, you mostly went to stores. Most people went to stores, which was a wonderful day. It really was a heyday of the industry, 2000, because there were 6,000 independent stores that Hero Arts had on its customer rolls alone. And if you, just a quick side story I'll tell, we would number stores by using the first letter of their store name and then a combination of numbers that were their telephone number and zip code. As you can imagine, that was not the best way to do it because stamping and scrapbooking were both S. So we had huge numbers in S and very few in the other letters. But but 6,000 stores. And remember, the
Yeah.
reason why you didn't need YouTube and you didn't go to the internet, you didn't really have that demand for YouTube at the time, is that people would go to stores and take classes. That's where you'd find your community. That's where you'd find your people. You go to a Stamina Up demonstration. It was all in person because any given town that you were in, you might have 2, 3, 4, 5 stores in your
Right.
area, and especially in an urban area. Not even counting Joanne stores in the Keys, right? You had wonderful, creative, independent scrapbooking stores, stamping stores,
Yep.
art stores. And so that was a time when that's where people really got the opportunity to see a store like yours. We talked about in an earlier episode, Stampa Barbara that had over
Mm-hmm.
150,000 woodblock stamps in inventory at any given time, right?
Wow.
Hundreds of different companies that probably, you know, came and went very quickly, but nonetheless, somebody making with their vulcanizer in their basement, making
Yes.
stamps,
Yes.
to a company like Hero Arts that was producing not only stamps for ourselves in the early 90s or the late 80s, but also for Stampin' Up. We made stamps for Stampin' Up, by the way, and before they got their own vulcanizers. And so
Yep.
this was a time, as you come right around your kind of start in crafting, Gina, where you saw an opportunity because e-commerce was just starting to rise. Amazon was just founded. YouTube was just coming. And you grabbed that opportunity, which is really pretty impressive. And I remember watching, maybe it was Google, but then it was YouTube. I remember watching you, and you were so engaging. And you
Oh,
were just like
thank
you
you.
are now. You're, you know, have great stories, very talkative, and know how to, I think, really inspire others to have joy and passion that you exude every time that I watch your videos.
Oh, thank you. Thank you,
Amen.
Aaron. That is so nice. You know, people have been watching me. I do get a lot of people that say, "Oh gosh, I've been with you from the beginning." And I just laugh and I think, boy, those poor women and men who've been with me from the beginning have seen a whole lot of different hairstyles. A whole lot of different hairstyles, probably a few wigs, because I did wear wigs for a while.
You did?
Nice.
I didn't even
I
notice
did.
that.
Well, when we moved down to Milwaukee, our first warehouse in Milwaukee had, it was just a bare bones warehouse, and it was just me and Tom working in there together, just the two of us. And it had no air conditioning and just a little bit of heat. So in the summer, it would be 100 degrees in that warehouse, and he and I would be packing orders and prepping orders and making. He would be vulcanizing stamps, and it would be hot, and then we'd have to record an episode of Stamp TV. And I would be
Wow.
dripping, dripping. So I put some powder on my face
Crazy.
and I'd throw my hair up in a knot and I would put a wig on that looked just like my hair. So a lot of the videos that I did over the years were actually not my real hair. They were Gina K wigs. They were wigs of my same hairstyle.
Jennifer, did you have
That's
any idea that
crazy.
we were not only going to talk about stamping and crafting, but we were going to talk about wigs, rock and roll, and ghosts? I did
I
not know
I knew some of these things. I knew some of these things. In fact, I may be to blame for the rock photos because I've seen those over the years, and I said to Mike, "You need to ask Gina for some of her band photos because
I
I think they're just awesome." I somehow Gina is managing to, what do you call it, age in reverse? Like she's getting younger as the rest
So
oh,
of us are
true.
getting older, and I don't
you're so
understand
sweet.
it.
No, 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 no.
I don't understand it. There were a couple questions that I saw. One is, when did Tom get in? You said he went to law school, and then when did he end up being part of Gina K Designs? Like, how did that work?
Okay, so Tom was a practicing lawyer for quite a few years, and then he was also general counsel for an insurance company. And we, so this was when I had my nail salons. He was working as a lawyer. I had my nail salons, and then my little stamping gig on the side that I did from home. Well, once we moved to the first brick and mortar store and we started getting orders, and I was starting to have to make a lot of stamps, and I was finding it really difficult to juggle both. In fact, I was a
Yeah.
little bit nervous because I had this nail salon and this nail school to run, and I was running a chain of nail salons, a nail school, and I had this store going. Now, my partners didn't know I was involved in the stamping business as deeply as I was. They knew I had a hobby of it, but I don't think that they knew to the extent that I was getting involved. And it was becoming two full-time businesses for me.
Mm.
And I had to pick. Do I want to continue with my nail business and keep going? Or do I want to put 100% of my efforts into this stamping thing and see where it goes? So
Sure.
I talked to my partners and I said to them, would you like to buy me out of the business? And my thought was, if they can just pay me enough 1 year salary, give me 1 year to build Gina K Designs. That's what I needed, 1 year. And they offered me enough that it covered my salary for 1 year. And I had 1 year. As soon as that transaction was complete, it was like the timer went on. And I had 1 year to build Gina K Designs so that it would be able to support my portion of the income for the family. But it far exceeded what I ever thought that we could do. And probably about in year 2, I said to Tom, I know you're a lawyer and all, and you put all those years into law school, but what do you think about coming and making stamps in the back room?
Right.
And being the
Far
accountant.
more rewarding, maybe.
Yeah. Being the accountant, being the businessman, doing all the real estate stuff that, when we moved to a bigger place, doing all those things. And I don't think he didn't sit too long thinking about it. He said, yeah, I think I'd like to do that. But,
good choice, Tom.
Tom and I started when we were 15 years old working together. And we worked together most of our adult lives. And it was just that small period in between where he was a lawyer working as a practicing attorney, and I had my nail salons, that we weren't working together. And some people say, husband and wife shouldn't work together. I can't work without him. He is my inspiration every day. He does so much for Gina K Designs. You don't see it because I'm the face on the camera most of the time, but honestly, it's because of Tom that I was able to do what I was able to do with Gina K Designs. Now, I wasn't worried about payroll anymore and insurance and all those things. I just, this is all yours now. And I was able to be creative and do what I really loved.
That's awesome.
Beautiful.
Yeah. And we're thankful for him in the dead space.
Yes.
Tom, he's over there in the dead space.
Yes, absolutely. I have to say, really well said, Gina. And to Tom, I saw one of the comments, lawyer to stamper. I think that's an upgrade.
Yes.
I really do.
And, I do too.
And I have to say that I want to echo that, because you and I share that. Because my wife, Laura, my mother founded the company 50 years ago. And then Laura and I took over the company 20 years ago, and I couldn't have done it without her. She really is the creative inspiration and lets me do the things that I do well, which really allows, our industry is really a creative one. So she is really the magic behind the company. And I couldn't do it without her, just like you're saying with Tom. So well said. I feel the same way. I'm going to be sure to, Laura's not on set with me, but I'm going to be sure to tell her, if she's not listening right now, which I'm sure she is, that I really appreciate her. And thank you for reminding me that's a very important thing to do. In this industry, by the way, there are many husband-wife teams.
Yes.
Kelly and Mike at Lawn Fawn. Nabil and Yasmin at Alt New. In fact, we might just happen to have a future episode around that. I'm not giving anything away, but that's possible. And so it is really a story of family, of community. We have over 1,900 of our community joining us right now at this moment, which is really impressive. And it feels like a family, and this industry is unique in that way, that it does give the opportunity for not only creativity, Gina, because your story is a beautiful wandering path of creative activities and events as you kind of found your way into stamping, found your way into scrapbooking, and found your way into kind of being the company and person that you are today. And, Jennifer, your story is very similar as well. You
Yep.
kind of took a winding path. You could have been doing toilet paper or tampons. And I think the world's a better place that you're doing stamping and card making
Yeah.
and from scrapbooking.
Yes.
And you've had family with you too,
Yep.
along the way, being a very important part of what you do, including
For
Mike in the
sure.
background or in the dead space, doing all the
Yes.
technical.
So Mike's my brother. My husband does all the finance stuff for the business, but Mike does all the tech stuff and works with me every day. And there's a lot of brothers too, because Greg works with his brother. You work with your brother, Aaron.
He's the
And
tech guy.
Heidi of Simon Says Stamp works with her brother. There's quite a few brothers who get roped into this too.
It is. It's a family thing. And, just like your mom brought you into your business, Aaron, I feel like we've done a little bit of that ourselves. My daughter, Alicia, who is an artist, went to art school, went to New York and graduated with a degree in film. She's used her knowledge to help us with camera setups and studio setups. And then she's also an artist and draws tons of our stamps and stencils for us. My other daughter, Rena, I'm sure you've probably, a lot of my friends that are joining us tonight who know of my family, they've watched Rena's videos. She's a stitch. If you haven't watched a Rena K video, just do yourself a favor. You will laugh so hard. She's very funny. And she did, for a while she was kind of getting herself through college, she made videos. She still designs products for our company and makes guest appearances now, even though she has her own salon. So that came full circle. She owns a salon now, but they're all creative industries. But it is so neat to be able to work with your brother, with your sister, with your spouse, and with your kids. I'm sure it was pure joy for your mom to have you knowing that, my sons are here. It's amazing. It's an amazing opportunity that you don't find in a lot of other industries.
I think one of the big advantages is, like, after I worked in a big corporate, I worked in Procter & Gamble, a really big company, and it is night and day different than having a small business. So I think one of the reasons why a lot of family members get involved is they understand by watching you and how your business goes. They can better understand how it works than hiring somebody who has no experience, because it is so different. There's so much it's not all about business and numbers and all that. There is so much heart behind this industry that you don't understand unless you've been associated with it a bit before starting to work. So I think that's a big reason a lot of family members also start joining in on things, because it's really unique. It's very different. It's really hard to explain too, the heart behind the industry.
You're right. And let's even take it to the next level, is the customers, the people that watch our videos, the people that you meet at stamp shows and events. I now am in a position, in the beginning, it was me in the basement with a vulcanizer, and then it was Tom and me, vulcanizing, right? But now I have 30 staff members. So my company has grown a bit, and I have people that work for me that are diehard crafters and card makers. And then I have people that have come here from other industries. And when the people who come here from other industries see what it's like to work in this industry, and just the customer service emails and the things that we get from people, the kindness, the cards that people send us, and the different things. I always think it's funny how we tell our children, don't talk to strangers. But any single person from my Facebook group could call me and say, hey, you want to meet? Come on over to my house for dinner. I'd get right in the car and go there with no fear at all, because crafters they're our family too. They have become our family over the years, and you have that same connection with them. So our industry is really neat that way. The company owners are friends. I love that. our families are involved, and our customers become our friends. And boy, is there a better blessing than that?
I
So
agree.
true. Yeah, and during COVID, it really came out. I have to
Yep.
say, you know, a really heartfelt thank you to everyone for supporting the industry because it was a brutal time, especially in California, where Hero Arts is located. It was much more restrictive how COVID locked down, um, the employees coming. But I remember the emails people were sending. Just, oh, don't worry, I'm going to order just to support you, but you don't have to ship whenever. I don't
Yeah.
care. It can come months later. It was the most wonderful outpour of support for Hero Arts. And I heard that time and time again from everybody. And that
Absolutely.
is so unusual. You're not going to get that in the legal industry. You're not going to get that in the field of engineering. You're not going to get that in the corporate world. You're not going to
No.
get the kind of love and community that we have here in our wonderful crafting industry.
Yep.
Just stepping back, you often hear news about, businesses are doing this or the stock market's doing that. That is not what our industry is all about. Like 99% of all businesses are small businesses, and 50% of people are employed not in a corporate environment, but in an industry like this. And often these industries are unknown, are unseen by the news media at the highest level, and yet they are the heart and soul, I think, of what America is about, what manufacturing is about small family businesses is about. And so I'm just honored to be a part of it, and I love hearing the stories of how both of you have kind of built your businesses. And I just need to take a pause now. My team's telling me they've picked winners.
Oh,
And I'm terrible
good.
at pronouncing names, and the light is right in my eyes, but I will do my best. So the first one, and thank you all for joining. Again, 1,900 people looking at us right now. It's wonderful to have all of you. We do have some giveaways like we do every time. Hero Arts is giving away $50 gift card, and the winner also has the opportunity to give someone else a $25 gift card just to show how kind of this community is all built based on friends and, really sharing what we have. So the first winner, Rosie Kostenko. Thank you for joining. You have won $50. Email info@heroarts.com. The second one is Patty Clancy. You've also won a Hero Arts $50 gift card, and you can give yet another $25 gift card to your friend of choice. Thank you, scrapbook.com, for not only a $50 gift card today, but all of our Hanging with Hero. And that goes to today, Ruth Weirbeck. Thank you for joining. Remember to email info@heroarts.com to claim it. Also, Ranger Inc. is doing not just Tim's, but the whole series. They're giving a $50 gift card. You can email info@heroarts.com. Nancy Purdom, congratulations. And then finally, Gina K. She has given $100
$100.
for GinaKDesigns.com. The rest, you can
Nice.
still email, though, info@heroarts.com, and we will forward that on to Gina.
Yep.
Linda Neary, congratulations. Thank you all. And I have to tell a
Congratulations.
funny story that I told last time, which was we were in marketing deciding we wanted to really kind of honor all of you in a way that gave the opportunity for you to kind of share the love and really kind of enjoy Hero Arts. And that is we're doing, and I said in marketing, a 15% discount for 24 hours. And my marketing team heard 5-0, not 1-5. And so we're doing a 50% off 24-hour sale on our stamp bundles starting now. So you can go onto our site, and our stamp bundles are now 50% off. We just are not a discount company at all. We just really don't do that. But any stamp bundle that you want, you can get for 24-hour only, 50% off.
Now's the
in
time.
celebration of 50 years.
And what I love, can you hold that up again? I love how Hero Arts packages that look at, you can buy the stamp separate, but these are the stamp and die bundles that are on sale. Look at, they have the stamp set on the front and then the die sets behind it. I really like that to keep the packaging down. Really great. So it's 50% off the stamp and die bundles, correct?
Yes.
Yep. And there's
So
a link in the
50% off
description below.
these. Yeah, and it's so visit heroarts.com. It's only 24 hours.
Yes, hurry up.
Yes, so 50 years is pretty amazing, and yeah, I mean, I can't imagine that I'm even 50, let alone the company. Not that I was there. I was underfoot. I was like your kids, Gina, to my mom.
Yeah.
Right. I was
Right.
7 when we started the company, and so you know what's funny about some of the things that you're saying is that there's parallels. Like I was an artist too as a 7-year-old, and I drew a cow, which I showed on that
Yes.
first episode. Yours was much better, but mine was, had that 7-year-old cuteness for sure. And also, I've got a vulcanizer story I want to tell you, and because some people are asking what a vulcanizer is. A vulcanizer is basically an oven that also applies pressure, and so
Makes rubber like this.
Exactly, and it takes sheet rubber, and it produces, you know, these detailed impressions on rubber, including what's behind me, and so you can
That's
press
cool.
those out. And Gina's story, it really resonates with me because when we were looking at presses, my mother tells the story, and I remember over the years, we wouldn't buy new ones because new ones were available. You could get new vulcanizers. No, it was the old ones with the ghosts. We never had any ghosts though, so you got a good one. But the old ones, like our rubber stamp presses, are from the 1940s, just mainly because it was just that thick American steel.
Mm-hmm.
And our presses are so big, the 1942 press, that we had a forklift come and move it, and the forklift tipped. So it was the vulcanizer won against the forklift. We had to get a second forklift and an industrial size one, in fact, and all of us stand on the back of it in order for it to pick it up. That's how heavy
Wow.
we're talking.
Yeah.
So I
Crazy.
was
They are heavy.
impressed. Yeah, I was impressed that Tom was able to move that because, you know, that shows dedication to the family business because we needed forklifts to move ours.
His back still hurts, Aaron. I want you to know that his back still
I don't
hurts.
doubt it. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
So this leads to one of the questions that I saw a few people ask. Can you guys talk about the transition from like solely red rubber stamps to clear stamps coming into the picture?
Yeah. Well, you know, we were one of the last holdouts. We were doing red rubber up until probably 2015. We maybe a little before that, but 2014, 2015, we were doing red rubber. And one of the things that I didn't like about the clear, and I brought one to show you, one of the original clear sets. Let me just grab a piece of white cardstock so you can see what I'm talking about. Way back in the day, this is what would happen to your clear stamps. Oh, there we go. Tom's got it. There we go.
Oof.
This is one of our very first clear stamps that we had manufactured, and we wanted to see how it would go. And this is just after a couple years, how yellow they would get. And customers.
And that's not yellow ink. That's not yellow ink. That
No,
is the
that
material actually yellowed.
Yes. And so this was one of the reasons. I mean, back then we did our little, this was an original Gina K stamp set, the way we did them. And we did them in these little tins, and we had the little label on the back. And
Beautiful.
We thought that we were like really stepping it up when we let go of the wood block and we put it on cling cushion. We thought we're in the now. But then there were companies that were doing these clear stamps, and we thought, all right, well, let's give it a try. And this is what happened. So I didn't like it, and I didn't do it. And we just kept doing rubber and kept doing rubber. And finally, a different company reached out to me and said, they don't yellow anymore like that. They don't yellow anymore like that. And they're not the way they used to be. They used to be a little bit more ink repellent. The ink didn't grab onto them quite as well as it does now. And now they really act a lot more like rubber. In fact, there are some times where I'll pull a stamp set out of a package now and I'll ink it up, and it'll take ink beautifully the first time, and it will stamp beautifully, very reminiscent of how a rubber stamp used to feel, where you just buy that stamp, take it home, ink it up, and a perfect image right out of the package. Well, it's getting to be that way. So I think you
Yeah,
did clear before us, Aaron.
we did. We talked about this, Jennifer and I.
Mm.
And, the first time that we encountered, I mean, Kling's been around for a while.
Yep.
The red rubber Kling. And then so Clear version of Kling, which was called Kling early on, like it's a little confusing, the names that are used, but what we call Clear today. I mean, it's been around since the 90s,
Yeah.
probably earlier, but it didn't really come to stamping until the early 2000s. And I remember looking at it in about 2003, 2004. And then Sherry Carroll worked for us, who now,
Yep.
Sherry Carroll's a wonderful creator who now works for Simon Says Stamps. And Sherry and I and Laura looked at it and we're like, nah, it's just a fad.
Yep.
Nobody's going to use
Right.
that stuff,
Right.
right? And it doesn't. It stamps okay, but not compared to red rubber, right? It's just not the same. Oh, okay, you can see through it. It's a little lighter, but we'll do Kling, like you did, and it'll be fine. And then started working with Jennifer, and I said, Jennifer, what do you think about Clear? And she was like, nah. So all of us were pretty much in consensus. And then about a year passed, and Jennifer was like, I think we should do Clear. I think you should really do Clear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we did. 2006, we introduced alphabets. So it was a whole set that was A. So A, there was a picture of an apple, amazing, all the messages. Z obviously didn't sell that well. The different letters sold better, but we actually put out 30 because there was a few just designs or just messages as well all together. And that was a pretty big gamble, 30 Clear sets after basically doing, 2,000 individual wood stamps that we had in our line, and about 450 of those, wood sets, not individual stamps, in boxes, the one that you first had. So taking that gamble, and, we didn't look back. Although I do say that even at that time, we were like, yeah, this is probably a fad for a few years.
Yep.
And so I credit Jennifer for really making the difference, because she was like, yeah, I think younger customers and scrapbookers coming to card making are really going to like it. And we're a little obsessed with trying to find new customers then, because it was a time when people were kind of walking away from stamping, and I think Clear stamps probably changed it. And then dyes too, which we can get to in a minute. But before we leave Clear stamps, I do think it's really interesting that those original photopolymer, which are the high quality ones today, were the ones that yellowed. And so you could actually tell a high quality Clear as opposed to an acrylic or a silicone, which were basically byproducts of the medical industry, weren't designed to be, porous and hold ink, would just kind of smudge, that a lot of the early Chinese-made products would come from. Those wouldn't yellow. But other than that, they were terrible. And so eventually photopolymer caught on, and photopolymer, a non-yellowing agent by a good friend, Mike Hahn, ran a company with his brother many years ago. Mike was a good friend of mine, and he started working with the resin companies, and they found a way to make it non-yellow. And also remember, it had a slight smell to it that wasn't very attractive. And so Clear, I think, became the mainstream.
Yeah. And I think for card makers, they liked being able to see through, especially when it came to greetings, where you could stamp that greeting straight and not have to worry about it. It's kind of like we all gave in, and then the photopolymer companies just kept getting better and better and better.
Yes.
But the cheaper stamps, like you were talking about, some of them that come from China, they are made of silicone. And when you think about what silicone is what you use to caulk your bathroom, right? You want silicone to repel moisture. That's what it's supposed to do.
It does it well.
Photopolymer absorbs it the way a rubber stamp does. It holds it on there. And so there's a huge difference. So it really depends, and it depended at the time what Clear stamps you tried And that was when people said, well, these clear stamps don't work, versus the people who got the good photopolymer, the clear stamps did work. I think
And
close to
Yes.
my heart was a big company that really brought it mainstream. When they went to the My acrylics, they called them acrylics, but they were photopolymer, and they worked really nicely. And people were like, huh, this is a whole home party thing that's doing clear.
and I
And I
think
wasn't the
that,
last holdout, though. Stampin' Up! Was.
yes, that's true. I
Yeah.
do think that one of the things that also hurt, if you were a scrapbooker and you were considering stamping, I think one of the things that also, we talked about this earlier, that hindered some scrapbookers into stamping is when the clear stamps came out, some of the scrapbook companies would get the clear stamps made overseas that were
Yeah.
not photopolymer. And so when you would go to stamp them, your ink would bead up and you'd get, I mean, really bad stamp results. So they kept, when they did try a clear stamp, it failed. So it
Yes.
wasn't until like Close to My Heart and Hero Arts and a few others and we're trying to show scrapbookers, hey, there are clear stamps that stamp really well, and it's the photopolymer ones that all of our stamp companies were using. So I think that also led to a little bit of a boundary to get more scrapbookers to use stamps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Absolutely. And I do think that it really changed the industry. I mean,
Yeah.
which I think is a tribute to you, Gina, and companies like, the wonderful ones that we've mentioned, like Lawn Fun and Alt New, which is you have to innovate in this industry all the
Yes.
time. If you
Yes.
don't innovate and if you don't change, you really can't bring the most current techniques, stamping supplies to your customers. And so I think that is a part of something that Tim Holtz said. You have to feel a little bit uncomfortable because sometimes innovation can be uncomfortable. But it's a wonderful aspect that keep us young. Gina, you are ageless. And I think it's because you innovate all the time, and you
I
have
don't
to
know.
innovate in order to be, because Clear changed the industry. Like, we were a full red rubber and cling, but just red rubber company, and then we had to go to Clear, which was a big change. We didn't make those in house, right? We
Yeah.
went from
Right.
the vulcanizers like
Right.
you had to
Right.
having to find
Yeah.
partners and outsource that.
Well,
The
we
Misty.
used to cook to order. So
Oh yeah,
all of a
us too.
sudden, now we had to carry inventory, and that was very scary for us, because
Right.
it was easy to say, hey, we sold 100 of these, make 100 of those. Now it's like, we sold 100 of those, buy 1,000. What are we going to do with the rest?
Yeah.
So
A
You
lot
know,
of
true.
people, a lot of people are asking where you guys have your stamps made now. They're clear. Both companies' clear stamps are made in the U.S., but not in house. There are some great companies who do make clear stamps for, like Gina and for Hero and for some of our other favorite companies. As far as red rubber, Hero still makes them in house, right?
Yes.
And Gina, do you do any red rubber anymore?
We don't. No,
Yeah.
we just wrapped up doing red rubber backgrounds a few months ago, and now we are 100% clear.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Gina, if you ever need red rubber made, I think I know
Yeah.
where to get
I'll
them.
call you.
But
Definitely.
yeah, we continue to make red rubber in house. Although we do have also other vendors in the U.S. who make beautiful red rubber. If we ever
Yes.
get overwhelmed or we don't have time, and we are in California, and so that's another way we have to innovate. Just like going to Clear, we've had to kind of find different vendors who maybe have less overhead in states that don't cost as much. And so I think that's another part of the innovation, maybe that customers don't see, where we have to kind of source more widely. Just like you say, Gina, that's a big change, going from carrying inventory from a just-in-time manufacturing, just like what we would do. We would cook to order. So we'd get a
Right.
big order. Okay, here's the production order for today. People would come and they go off and make it. And now you have
Yeah.
to have stuff on the shelf. You have to risk the money. But back to Clear, that I think the Misty also changed dramatically the
Yes.
industry. Like, it helped because then you could line it up. Also, Clear, of course, it was much easier to store. Didn't have to have as many wood blocks on your shelf. You had to have whole cabinets. Where with Clear, it's a lot easier to store. And
Right.
then, of course, we get to dyes and die cutting. That worked very nice. That was a very nice synergy that we can talk about as well. Let me just do one plug for a program that we have, because this is very important. The ability to innovate, I think, is critical. And sometimes that means changing. And so Hero Arts actually, after 9 years, we just discontinued our My Monthly Hero program as of
Oh,
May. That
wow.
was our last My Monthly Hero kit. And we've replaced it with the Hero Studio, which is a new program in June. So if anybody's interested, please go. As of now, I've seen questions in the comments. As of today, you can see a sneak peek of what's coming June 3rd. So first Monday of the month, the Hero Studio, which is pretty similar to My Monthly Hero, but now you've got 6 choices instead of 2, and the premium kit is still available. It's called the Card Kit of the Month. So check it out, subscribe, and you have to do that as a company. Like we've had to kind of rebrand and change in order to kind of keep that innovative, creative spirit. How have both of you dealt with that? Like how have you invested in finding the time to come up with new things? Because I'm so impressed. I really am, from both of you. Jennifer, watching your lives, watching your videos, it always seems like there's a new technique. There's a new way to use even kind of the classic time tested embossing powder or liquid watercolor or clear set. You do it differently and new, almost it seems every video. Same with you, Gina. You've been kind of a YouTube personality for so many years, and it's so technique driven. So you're
Yeah.
constantly not doing old techniques over and over again. You're doing new things, what seems like every week. I'd love to hear from both of you how you, on a regular basis, find the kind of inspiration to be kind of different, unique, new, and make it seem fresh, seemingly every day.
Well, I'll let Jennifer go first, and then I'll just copy what she says.
Well, first of all, I think Gina would agree with me. I am an overthinker. I overthink all of the things in life, including what to do in my Mike's shaking his head, yes. Including what to do in my videos. So when I am driving, I'm thinking about it. When I am eating my lunch, I'm thinking about it. So I'm always trying to think about how to use products creatively. But also, and I bet Gina will agree with this, we've been doing this a long time. So a lot of times it's just like revisiting an older technique and maybe doing a little spin on it. I
Yeah.
think that is also one of the ways. Because, I mean, there's only so much you can do with certain supplies, but it's just trying to combine different techniques together or just do a little spin on it to make it a bit different. And also, you don't have to reinvent the wheel every time. It's also fun to go back and just do older techniques and that people may have missed from the past. So it's a combination of overthinking and revisiting older ideas, at least for me. And a big one for me, which would be different from Gina, but I don't design product, and I find such a thrill using products created by my friends in the industry, by Gina, by Aaron and Laura, by Christina. Like that just motivates me and inspires me more than you know. So that is also a way that I can keep going, because you guys, by the time your products come out, you've seen them a
Yeah.
lot, right? You've
Yeah.
designed them, you've done the specs, you've done all that stuff. I get them in my mailbox and it's like candy, and I right away it inspires me because I haven't gotten to, I haven't thought about it for a long time. So it's fresh and new to me, which definitely keeps me going. So thank you guys for doing that. I can't. I can't.
Well, I
But
I agree 100% with what you said, Jennifer. All of that is so true. In fact, Jennifer and I have started a series on YouTube that we go back and forth, and we do something called tag team technique videos. And we
Great.
just revisit a whole bunch of techniques that we've done over the years. And, just cram them all into one video. And
yep.
it's amazing how many people haven't necessarily seen all the techniques, or the one technique that I was going to do, Jennifer did it. And like she said, she does it in a different way. She adds a little bit
Yep.
of something else and it becomes something brand new. For
Yep.
me, what I enjoy where I like to be innovative is I like to do things that people haven't done before.
Hmm.
That's where, and not techniques, not stamping. I like to do things that people have never done before. And, an example of that is back in 2017, pre-COVID, back when everything was really, there were brick and mortar stores and the whole thing in 2017. My daughter Rena was in college, and I stumbled upon a program that allowed people to go live on Facebook and to do it from two different locations. And I
Yeah.
said to Rena, let's go live. And she was like, what is that? And I'm like, come on, you're a kid. You should know there's people going live on Facebook now. They weren't going live on YouTube, just on Facebook. And she and I started Monday Night Live back in 2017. And she and I went live. She was in Minneapolis and Minnesota going to school, going to college. And she would go live from her dorm room, and I would go live from my studio. And we would make cards together and have an audience and have people jump in and talk to us. And it was the most fun thing in the world to go live. And I started that back in 2017 in the craft industry. There weren't any other craft companies going live. People were using live video for certain things. But that's kind of where I like to innovate. I like to do something different that nobody's done before. Just like,
Nice.
when I started my YouTube channel, there really wasn't a lot going on. There were a couple, just a handful, but to me it was fun to do that. I actually gave Mike a picture of Rena and I, and tell me this
fun.
isn't, Mike, if you could share that picture. we
There
that was one of our first Facebook lives. Okay, we did it on Friday. Okay. And so, we were going live back then when I had short, very, very dark hair. So that was a long time ago now. It was so much fun.
I love it.
But that's where I enjoy innovation.
And then there's me, who my brother set up stuff for me to go live years ago, and I was too nervous.
Well, you got to do. But that's the beauty of our industry, is that everybody has their thing that they do so well. Like I used to, from the very first video that we ever made, we did a 2-camera shoot. The very first video. That's why we bought these 2 horse cameras. And then when I learned about you, Jennifer, I was amazed with voiceover videos. I thought that was the coolest thing in the world, to do voiceover videos. And I was a lot like Tim. I wasn't a script person. I just had to do it in real time and just say whatever came out of my mouth at the time. So everybody has their thing. Now, I tried to do voiceover videos for a little bit in there, and people would get mad at me. People would say, no, go back to the way you did it before. That's why I watch you. But I'm sure that, Jennifer, you've heard the same thing in the opposite. Like, aren't you going to still do your voiceover videos? Yeah. Everybody has their thing that they're so good at. And Jennifer, you're the queen when it comes to the voiceover, millions of samples, really exhausting a stamp set or a product line and showing people a million things that they can do with it. You can't do that live. I mean, you can if you stay live for 3 hours, but
which I've done.
I know, but the audience sometimes can't stay that long. So when you do that kind of video and it's so pro edited, people love that. Everybody has their thing that they.
I love
that.
They do well. I love that so much, that everybody has something to bring to the table, and it's a great way to kind of support each other and to support the industry. We want to keep this industry healthy and happy so that we can keep making cards, right? It's something that's really important. So,
absolutely.
And I think it's so interesting to talk about this because, we've spent now an hour and a half and we haven't, showed any cards. We haven't showed any techniques. And yet we have kind of such a rich and creative discussion about the industry and how people interact with our products and our companies and how our companies came to be with our families. different methods that we've had to change behind the scenes to keep up with
Yeah.
crafting. And so the industry is a rich tapestry and a wonderful community of people that are really supportive of each other. And it's true, sometimes innovation can be, uncomfortable.
Yep.
Sometimes innovation is necessary. I still love red rubber. I love, right behind this, I'm going to change
Yeah.
probably that again, and I'll show the plates maybe another time or the molds that
Yeah.
are used for those. But really, red rubber is not what most people prefer anymore. And I think if I would have stayed static, if Gina would have stayed in rock and roll, if Jennifer would have stayed an engineer, right, we wouldn't have these changes, this creativity in this industry. And I think it attracts people who are willing to really try something new. All of you crafters trying something new. The tag team, the video that you guys do together is so fun, and it's like no technique is old. It's just it
No.
needs a new rethink. It just needs
No.
a new try. It needs a new
It's
direction. It's a new
it's
spin.
my favorite thing that we do on
Yep.
YouTube is when Jennifer
Right.
and I get together and do it together. It's so much fun.
And we're
Aaron,
doing
did
one
you?
next week.
Yes, we are. I can't wait for
Yes.
that. And
Oh,
Jennifer,
fun.
did you ever tell Aaron and everybody how you and I met?
Oh, you should tell them this. You should tell
You
the story
know,
because, from your point of view, is very interesting.
it's so interesting to me because Jennifer and I mean, Jennifer, you've been doing YouTube videos forever too. I mean, you were probably there was probably a time right in the beginning, shortly after I started, that it was just like you, me, Christina Werner,
Yeah.
and maybe
Yeah,
one or two
probably.
other people, and that was it on YouTube, right? I never ever had heard of Jennifer McGuire.
Hmm.
Yep.
And it was probably, what do you think, like 2014? Probably about 2014. I think my
Probably.
daughter was in
Yeah.
10th grade, so
Yep.
Rena. So it was like 2013 maybe or 2014. And Rena would come downstairs with her phone on Instagram and she would say to me, "Mom, you got to see this baby. This is the cutest baby you will ever see in your life." And I looked at the phone. I'm like, "Oh my God, that baby is really cute. That is a cute baby." And then 2 days later, she'd come down. "Mom, there's another picture of the baby. You got to see this baby. I'm now following this baby on Instagram." And she would show me another picture and be like, "That is such a cute baby. I mean, that's a cute baby." It was Lila.
Mm-hmm.
And Rena was following Jennifer McGuire for pictures of Lila because she thought she was the cutest baby and she was doing the cutest things and the cutest clothes. And Rena was just baby obsessed. She just thought babies were the cutest thing. So then I was cleaning out the kids' closet and I had little dance costumes that I had carried with me from house to house to house that nobody was ever going to wear again because they were this big, And I didn't want to throw them away because they were really pretty and they were all handmade. And I said to Rena, "Do you think that we should send these things to that baby that you follow on Instagram?" So she's like, "Well, yeah, I mean, you should reach out to her and see if she wants them." So I reached out to Jennifer. And then when I went onto her Instagram, because I never went on, I mean, Rena was just showing me the pictures. I was like, "Oh my gosh, this mom is a card maker. How cool.
Yep.
She makes cards." I still didn't know who Jennifer McGuire was. And I reached out to you and I'm like, would you like, I know this is weird, just this person from Instagram reaching out to you, but I've got these really cute princess costumey dresses and my
Yep.
daughter follows your baby. We're just weird stalkers. And I saw that you were a card maker. And I said, "I'd love to send you some things," just kind of striking up a friendship. And then
Yep.
over time, I realized she was Jennifer McGuire, but we were kind of starting a friendship before we
Yep.
really knew that we were in the same
Yep.
industry.
Yep.
It's so
And
Yeah.
funny.
then I have some friends that get together a couple times a year here in Cincinnati near me, and like I invited Gina, as soon as I got a chance, and I remember we were sitting together, and it was like
Instant.
instant, and we just were laughing hysterically about the conversations we were having. But it's just some people you meet in this industry. you also, like, you would be good friends if we didn't even have this in common. It just makes it even better when you do. And so we were quick. Our falling in love story was pretty quick. So, but
And
yeah, that's how we met.
I will forever love Lila for
Yep.
being the cutest baby in the world that my daughter
And
followed.
and years later, when Lila was big enough, I got a picture of her wearing one of the dresses that Gina sent. They're still in her closet. So it was really
Uh,
special for her to grow big enough to fit into the dress. So, yeah,
yeah, it's so
Yeah.
cool.
that's our
And
story.
that's wonderful. People are asking to see those cute early pictures of
Ah,
Lila. And you can see early pictures of Colin, who graced the catalog pages of Hero Arts in 2008, 2009,
it's true.
2010. Um,
Yep.
and so, yeah, both beautiful,
Beautiful
uh,
children. Jennifer McGuire
beautiful,
has beautiful children.
So does
absolutely.
Gina.
You make
So
good
does Gina.
babies.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we could talk forever, I'm
Aaron,
sure.
Aaron.
Yeah.
It is wonderful to hear all of these stories. You definitely are a cherished, crafty friend, Gina. So
Yes.
Wow.
thank you for joining Hanging with Hero. I'm going to give a little preview of what our next one is in 2 weeks. We've mentioned her name, although it's going to be a little different because there's going to be two guests
Yep.
in addition to Jennifer and I. Christina Warner and Kathy Zilski are going to join
Oh,
us
how
in two
fun.
weeks
Yay.
on Hanging with Hero. So be
Oh,
sure to
that will be so
join.
fun.
Don't forget the 24-hour sale that you have on now through 5 p.m. Pacific time tomorrow. Thank you, Gina, for your giveaway, and congratulations
Yes.
to the person who won that one and all the giveaways, scrapbook.com and Ranger Inc. Wow. Wonderful to have all of you join us today. It really is a tribute to the
Yes.
industry. I'm honored to be a part of it. It really is a wonderful celebration of 50 years for crafting and hero arts. Um,
And Aaron,
let's.
thank you for all you do for the industry. You know, Jennifer refers to you as the godfather of the industry.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a very fitting title because
I need a favor.
not
Yeah.
and yeah, and not necessarily the Italian godfather, but that
Right.
person that you can count on being there no matter
Yep.
what.
Yep.
Thank you.
That's Aaron.
That's Aaron.
I appreciate it. And I really appreciate you two spending the time with, a non-crafty person. Well, Mike too. Maybe. Mike's there too because I definitely was an artist, but I've never really been a card maker and believe in that or stamper. Although I stamp every day in testing products, but nonetheless, I just don't do cards. So it's wonderful to talk with each of you and hear your innovative approaches to card making. So thank you, Gina, and thank you, Jennifer, always
Yes.
for co-hosting this with me. So much fun. I do want to say that I came up with this wacky idea. I didn't really know how to celebrate 50 years, and I ran it by Jennifer because she's a confidant after my wife, who I often turn to. And Jennifer's like, "Great idea. I want to do it with you." I'm like, "Oh, okay. You want to be a guest?" She's like, "No, I want to co-host it."
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm
Awesome.
like, "Oh, great. That's even better."
Couldn't
So
get a
it's
Yes.
better
better.
one.
Yeah, it's better together. And she knew this was a fun idea, and we've had many years of joy. Gina, there's so much more we could have talked about. Dyes,
I'm.
the stamping village, how
Ah,
we met. There's tons more. So maybe, stay tuned. We'll
yeah.
have other
Yes.
opportunities, I'm sure.
Yes,
Yep.
definitely. Thank you,
Yeah.
Aaron. Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank
Yes.
you. Thank you all for watching. We really, really appreciate it. Information about the wonderful offer is down below, also where you can find Gina and more from Hero Arts. So we will be back not this coming Wednesday, but the Wednesday after. I'm not sure what the date is. Do you know the date of that? 29th.
Yeah.
We'll,
May
we'll be
29th.
back on May 29th with Christina and Kathy. So thank you so much for being here. And I love you, Aaron. I love you, Gina. And I'm glad to spend this time with you.
Love you guys.
Love you too. Love all of you. Thanks.
All right.
Thank you. Take
Bye.
care.
Bye
Bye.
bye.